Hey, it's Rye. We're going to talk about your voice. These last few months, I've walked up and down our streets, attended meetings, connected with a lot of you at our parks and our coffee shops and restaurants, and obviously here online. And the sentiment everywhere, it's consistent. Folks feel disconnected. You feel like your voice is out there floating in the wind, never really reaching where it's supposed to go. Some of you might feel like you're shouting into the void and you're just hearing echoes. I get it. And we can talk about why that's happening. But before diving into some of the issues that are causing this disconnect that a lot of us are experiencing between residents and the folks that we elect to represent us, we have to acknowledge one thing, that we love Camas. It's why we all moved here. It's why we live here. It's our community. It's the history here. It's the promise, most importantly, the promise of what this place could be. And it's exactly all that love that can be channeled, can turn our frustrations into civil discourse and into a constructive call for change. Now, let's unpack a handful of recent situations that make us feel disconnected, that leave us scratching our heads trying to understand why our voices go unheard. The legacy lands fiasco. Tens of millions spent on lands that we can't use, with a toxic lake to boot. The midnight pool demolition. They yanked out the Crown Park community pool, despite nearly 2,000 neighbors begging them not to. And then a few months later, they introduced the pool bond, a confusing $78 million plan that 90% of us flatly rejected. And guess what? They're now using the very same consultants who engineered that plan for a splash pad, an unwanted splash pad. They're spending millions on something that nobody asked for or wants, or at least wouldn't prioritize over the restoration of a community pool. The overpriced roundabout. We spent $8 million for something that should have cost so much less. The ignored toxic lake. Years, decades of inaction, and not a single molecule of water has been treated in our lakes. The North Shore fantasy. It's our last green space in Camas, and now it's slated to be Californiaized with thousands of cookie-cutter McMansions, all because they claim you said you wanted it. The stealth utility tax, introduced quietly at the end of the year with no chance for public input, which led to our first ever referendum. It was a historic petition that was denied and labeled stupid and fraudulent by my opponent, while our city attorney asked a judge to dismiss the voices of 3,100 of us. These aren't isolated issues. They're symptoms of a council that's lost touch, that thinks it can act without consequence, without being accountable to the people it serves. And this is more than just an inconvenience. It's a core problem because it divides our community and it erodes the trust that could and should bind us together. Those 9 issues that I mentioned, you know who's been on the wrong side of all of them? Think about it.